Hi everyone, welcome to the today's episode where we dive into a topic that shapes our democracy in ways we often overlook, that is delimitation. Why do constituency boundaries change? How does it impact elections and governance? And most importantly, how could politicians use it to their advantage? Let's explore all this with a simple story. Once upon a time, there was a growing village called Rupapur. It had 1,000 people and was divided into 5 wards. Each ward had 200 people and they elected one representative to the village council. Over the years, the village changed. Some wards grew much bigger while the others remained small. Now, 2 wards had 500 people each while the other 3 had only 200 people each. But despite this imbalance, each ward still had one representative. This created a problem. In the big wards, one representative had to serve 500 people, while in the small wards, another representative only had to serve 200 people. Was this fair? No, right? So, the village elders decided to redraw the boundaries, a process called delimitation, so that each representative would serve roughly the same number of people. This seemed like a good idea. But here is where things got tricky. Some powerful leaders in Rupapur realized they could manipulate the process for their own gain, moving supporters to one area. A leader in Ward 3 who had strong support but faced a tough rival convinced some of his voters to change their addresses so they could be counted in his ward. This way, he ensured his seat remained safe even after delimitation, creating easy wins. Another leader split an opposing group into 2 different wards, making it harder for them to unite and defeat him. He made sure his own supporters stayed in one block, giving him an unfair advantage, ignoring certain communities. Some wards were drawn in a way that scattered certain groups, especially minorities, into different areas so they couldn't elect a leader who truly represent them. Instead of making elections fairer, these manipulations ensured certain politicians stayed in power. Hope you understood the story. Now, first understand what the delimitation is, its process, principles, and upcoming changes. Delimitation is the process of redrawing parliamentary and assembly constituencies to ensure equal representation. It plays a crucial role in maintaining fair elections and balanced political representation. However, in India, this process has been subject to political debates, particularly regarding regional representation, population growth, and seat freeze that has been in place since 1976. Who conducts delimitation in India? Delimitation is conducted by an independent delimitation commission appointed by the central government. Once again I repeat, appointed by the central government under the Delimitation Act. It works alongside the Election Commission of India. The composition of the Delimitation Commission is retired Supreme Court judge who will be the chairperson, chief election commissioner, and state election commissioners of the concerned states. One thing to note here is the Delimitation Commission's decision cannot be challenged in court once notified by the President of India. Now, let's try to understand the delimitation process in India. The President of India constitutes the Commission. The Commission begins its work using the latest census data. The number of Lok Sabha and State Assembly seats is determined. Constituencies are redrawn to ensure equal population distribution. SC/ST reserved seats are adjusted based on their updated population share. A draft delimitation proposal is published. Public hearings are conducted for feedback from citizens, political parties, and experts. The final report is submitted to the President of India. The new constituency boundaries are notified and cannot be challenged in court. Here are the principles for ensuring fair delimitation. The Delimitation Commission must be free from political influence and include judicial experts, statisticians, and neutral officials. Constituencies should be drawn based on the latest census to ensure equal representation. The 1971 census based seat freeze should be reconsidered to prevent regional imbalances. Political parties must not influence how boundaries are drawn. Strict transparency and clear criteria must be followed. Natural boundaries like rivers and mountains should be respected. Tribal and rural areas should not be merged and urban centers just for population balance. Let's explore what are the advantages and disadvantages of delimitation process. The advantages are: this ensures fair representation for growing populations. It helps in better resource allocation and also balances rural urban political power. The disadvantages are: some states may lose political influence. There is a risk of political manipulation as well, and delay in census data may affect fairness. We have to make sure this process is completed within a stipulated amount of time. Recently, Tamil Nadu CM M.K. Stalin raised concerns over delimitation, arguing that it could reduce representation for southern states that have successfully controlled population growth. His meeting with key political leaders reflects the growing North-South divide on this issue. To illustrate his concern, let's say, for example, a state has an initial population of 100, in which for each 10 member there is an MP. In this case, for 100 people there would be 10 MPs. This state had followed population control as well. Over a period of time, there is a 30% growth, and now the new population becomes 130. So, as per the delimitation process, now for the new population 130 members, it will have 13 MPs. There is another state where the initial population is 180, and for the same metric, this state has 18 MPs. But this state doesn't follow the population control, and they have 70% increase. The new population now comes 306. So now, as per the same calculation, this particular state will have 31 MPs post delimitation process. If I consider equal population control, that is 30% for this state as well, it should be 24. But since they haven't followed the population control, now they had the advantage of having 7 more MPs. For this simple example, we are seeing a difference of 7. Now let's consider the actual states which has more population. Just think what could be the difference. This is why delimitation is such a sensitive issue. If representation is purely based on population growth, regions with higher growth get more MPs, while with slower growth may feel underrepresented. Delimitation isn't just about redrawing maps. It's about power, governance, and fairness. As India gears up for this change, we must stay informed and ensure that democracy remains balanced. The upcoming delimitation will redefine India's political landscape for decades. Will it lead to fairness or deepen existing divides? Only time will tell. Thanks for listening.